The logo saga won't end. I ended yesterday's video with Dion saying, I hope this is the last thing we talk about with this. And now more things keep happening, so it's not the last thing we're going to talk about. In the last day, the two Michigan players who stood on the logo, Phat Phat Brooks and LJ Cason, changed their profile pictures on Instagram to a picture of a former Michigan player standing on the logo as Mateen Cleaves was kissing the logo back in whatever year that was, 1999, 2000, somewhere around there. And the point very clearly being, hey, there was no brawl at half court when this guy did this. Mateen, a Spartan legend, got out of there with zero issues, and no one complained about the pictures. So that point does hit a little bit for me, but also maybe should be known. Michigan lost that game by like 50 points.
Mhm.
So proudly proclaiming, hey, we're just like these guys. Not exactly the brightest move from Michigan basketball players.
And and
As
uh
that's going on,
and that guy transferred.
I'll throw it back to you. But as that's going on, Trey Holloman is now selling shirts commemorating the fact that he shoved a Michigan basketball player on senior day. Shout out to co-owner of the player's trunk, Charles Matthews, former Michigan player, for facilitating Trey Holloman's shirt sales, clowning the Michigan program. And then the latest on this, Dusty May went on Pardon My Take 24 hours after Tom Izzo went on Pardon My Take to give his stance and keep the PR war going on. Oh man, once again, a lot to get through here, Cart. As this drags on, what are your latest thoughts on the whole situation?
Honestly, kind of fed up about talking about it, to be honest with you. But this is how I am with like a lot of topics. Like there's some things that go on and carry on forever and ever. The flag planting, whatever happened in the tunnel of the Michigan State Michigan football game, like the discourse that surrounds that is just tiring to me. And I'm starting to get that way about this as well. Especially because I guess I'll speak on some points that come to my mind when I think about this. And my first one is a question to you. Do you love this from Cason and Phat Phat?
Love what? Changing the profile pics?
Yeah,
I don't know.
because in my heart of hearts, here's where I'm coming from. You just that team just whooped your ass twice,
Yes.
and you're changing profile pictures. That would irk me. That would irk me, right?
Yes.
Um, it would irk me if it was even a player that was good that did this or more productive in this spot. Like, even if it was, let's say, like a Trey Donaldson or a Vlad Golden who did this, it's just something that doesn't sit right with me about doing this after your rival just busted your ass twice. I think back to like, um, I guess the easiest way to do this is with football because Michigan football would whoop on Michigan State. There was that like a year or two ago where they like smacked us like 50-0, I think it was. I'd be like sick to my stomach if one of the Michigan State football players went after that game and like posted some type of trolly thing to someone that just busted your ass, your rival busted your ass. So I don't like that necessarily.
Yeah.
Um,
I hear that and agree with that for what it's
okay.
worth.
And then my second point on this, from a more so of a Michigan State standpoint, I don't like that this is becoming such a big deal because there's so much more about this season that's like fun and special. Like we go 17-3. We beat our rival twice. We win the Big Ten by 3 games. Like this team, this has been a historically fun year for Michigan State basketball after what has happened. And like we have March aspirations now, and I didn't think that we would really have those to start this year. And now it's about the logo saga and Trey Holloman selling merch. And like I get it. It was a moment, people loved it. I just wanted to be more of like a blip moment and move on than kind of hanging on to it like it has. And now it keeps going back and forth. The both coaches are going on PMT. The profile picture changed by both these players. Trey Holloman selling merch. I'm over the whole situation because I feel like I kind of want to see the team more locked in. And I'm not questioning Michigan State being locked in because I think mentally this team is psychos. And Jackson Kohler posting a photo in a Michael Myers mask really calmed me down from this situation.
Yeah.
But it's just it's
Your team's the best, man.
I love it, but yeah, I think those are my two main thoughts on this. But overall, really ready to like get on with this.
Well, your second point, I think, is the one that's in line with my point in the first video we did about like, oh, Kalen Lucas loved this so much he had to call and thank him for protecting from Phat Phat, right?
And the thing
Like,
is, like, I'm fine with that. Like, I know you and I disagree on that. I'm fine with that, but like, it's Wednesday, March 12th as we record this. I like
yeah.
24 hours and let's move on from
But
this.
I think the sentiment behind your second point is the sentiment I felt in the first point
Yeah.
about the Legends. Like, this little moment or big moment, whatever you want to call it, should not be important enough in the middle of this Michigan State season to like resonate as a special moment.
Hmm.
It just shouldn't. Like, Michigan did some dickheaded shit, okay? You've got championships to win. Like, considering Trey Holloman like a Spartan, he was a Spartan great for his behavior before this moment. He was a beloved teammate, right? Like, if this moment is like the pinnacle of this season or Holloman's season, to me, that's an injustice to what's been special about this season. And yeah,
Right.
it's kind of become a bigger thing than I think it
And,
should. Um,
sorry, one last thing, and not to cut you off, but to me, it's also taken away from what Trey did. Trey busted their ass 2 straight games.
Right. He was a great player in the games. That's way
Yeah.
more important than shoving a walk on because whatever.
Right.
Okay, back to your question about do you like this from the players? I have my answer. I completely agree with your point. I hate any sort of behavior like this after the fashion in which they lost. That applies to everyone involved. That's a big part of why I'm upset with how Dusty's handled this. Like, dog, take your L, shut up. I never think you look good when you're trying to double and triple down as like the program that got destroyed and embarrassed on the court. Um, I hate it from Phat Phat, who I still stand by. He's the guy that knew everything that was going on. He's a guy that was raised in the state that visited Michigan State a bazillion times. He knew what was going on 110%, was being the antagonist here, kind of, let's do this, and is never going to play a meaningful minute for Michigan ever and is now doubling down with this picture that again is embarrassing to use a picture from a game which you lost by 50 points, like the most lopsided loss in program history. That's the moment we're proudly pointing to. I love it from Cason, and here's why. This is the first second that I've seen this season that shows me Cason actually cares about Michigan long term.
Mm.
I thought Cason would be at FAU the moment the season ends. So like I still believe in LJ Cason long term card. Maybe I'm foolish for doing that. But if LJ Cason cares enough about this incident at all to like stand in solidarity with the guy who clearly hates Michigan State and likes Michigan, okay. Happy with it from Cason's perspective. Hate it from Phat Phat, like it from Cason. That's where I'm at with that. What about Dusty going on PMT though? Because I've
Well,
hated everything Dusty's done this whole time. The entire way. This is the first move from him that I love.
you love him going on at right after Izzo.
It's so petty. It's so petty. And I listened to both interviews. They're both good interviews. They both essentially say the same shit that they said at the podium, just in a more comedic tone, right? Like Dusty's on this interview talking about, yeah, I mean, their logo's 30% of the court. Like, what do you want from us? Like, I know they had a little tradition. They told me they've got the kiss the floor thing. They didn't tell me that they foul intentionally and it takes 30 minutes and we can't stand on the logo while it's going on. Like he's doing it. He's doing it in a comedic tone. And he's doubling and tripling down, which I hated in the press conference. But when you're doing this to get your story out on the same platform that Izzo just did the day before, I love it. That's a me move, right? That's a 100% petty Greg Waddell. I'm not letting you get the last word move. I guarantee you, Dusty May, who's gone on PMT before, reached out to PMT when he saw that Izzo did this and was like, let me on immediately the next day.
Yeah, listen, I'm always going to respect the pettiness, and you got to be petty because you've been losing games, so you got to win somewhere.
The spin zone, didn't you float this? Maybe someone else floated it to me. The spin zone here is there's a world that Dusty is intentional in his approach here to take some heat off his team. Is that a stretch here or no?
Ooh, I didn't. I mean, it's somewhat of a stretch, but I'm not mad. I don't think I'm mad at that. I gotta listen to the full PMT episode. I'll be honest with you. I've only seen like little clips. I haven't listened to the full thing yet. I know you have, right?
Yes, I listened to both Izzo and Dusty's.
Did Dusty still do the like I didn't know this thing, or did he more so stand on business on it?
That has been so misinterpreted.
Uh-huh.
That has been so misinterpreted because like Dusty used the same words he used at the press conference again. He said, like, I knew they have a tradition. I didn't know it was this.
Mm.
He says that again. But again, his point, I feel he's been wildly misinterpreted. He never meant to imply that he didn't know this. He was being a sarcastic, petty responder in everything he has said since this game ended. When he said the words "I didn't know," followed by anything at the post conference press conference, he was not saying he did not know this tradition. And Michigan State fans took it as a literal response that he
Well,
said he didn't know.
well, that goes back to my first point when we first talked about this. Like you, like stand on business about it. You know what I'm saying? Be the dickhead. Be that. That would have been my favorite
But he's
response from
he's
Dusty.
he's doing that in his Dusty May way. You may not like the way, but like just sarcastic. He's sarcastically trolling, is what he's doing, rather than like if you can't read between the lines of the sarcastic trolling, he is essentially saying what you're saying you would respect by just sarcastically being like, yeah, I didn't know there was a rule we couldn't stand there.
That's
That's
so
not. I didn't know they don't have a tradition. You
that's
know?
so fun. It's just so it's like when someone's holding their finger like this far from your face and you're like, stop touching me. He's like, I'm not touching you.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not gonna touch you.
Right.
Um,
It's a prick move,
it
but
is. It's just this
yeah,
is just like I said,
it's
um,
childish. Yeah.
just so childish. Uh, so I didn't know this. Uh, is it funny that the dude in the picture transferred after the season and transferred down in the profile picture?
I mean, I don't even know about the guy, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's.
either do I, but I guess he like you said, they lost that game by 51 and he literally transferred after that year.
I mean, yeah, I think that makes it funny. Again, I'm not happy players are necessarily dragging this out. It's just good to see any sign of care whatsoever from LJ because I thought LJ probably got home from this and was just like, that was weird. I'm gonna leave. Like, if he cares at all, that's a win for me. I also would like to float this. You are in the Discord, but you very rarely pay attention to it last night. Me
Hmm.
and the Michigan State channel were going back and forth with some metaphors for this
Oh
whole
God.
situation. And I'd like to unveil what I think is a metaphor that explains where Dusty May is coming from.
Okay.
It's a long one, though. I want to warn you.
Okay.
Okay. But again, because why is this discussion even happening? Because I feel like I kept hearing from Michigan State fans in this chat be like, Dusty May's such a prick. Why won't he just apologize? Blah blah blah.
He should never apologize. I'd be mad as hell if
Okay.
my coach apologized.
Yeah, I don't mean to put that on you, but they're just in the Michigan State channel as you would expect. Michigan State fans are like, why is he doing this? Why won't he admit that he knew? Why is he not apologizing?
Mm.
And I did my best to try and explain from Dusty's perspective, this is why I believe he's being such a sarcastic prick. Here's my best metaphor at this, and I think it's my finest metaphorical work that I've ever come up with, Card.
Wow.
So, okay, let's say that you have a neighbor,
Hmm.
okay? And your next door neighbor is a giant jerk specifically to you.
Okay.
Like you see your neighbor, you walk out of the parking lot, the driveway, you see him and he's like, "Hey, fuck you." Just every single morning like, "I hate you, fuck you, hope you slept like shit."
Hmm.
He's nice to most other people, he's not nice to you. You don't like him. He doesn't like you, that's fine. You guys sort of have a mutual, we don't like each other agreement. That's totally fine. Halloween's coming up, and your next door neighbor has a reputation for doing a very special Halloween tradition.
Mhm.
Everybody gives out candy, but when he gives out candy, it's special. That there's a reputation in the neighborhood that this guy gives out the special candy. And you hate the guy, so there's that tradition. There's a special candy being passed, but you don't really care to know that much about it. You don't know the logistics of why it's special. You just know this guy does something special for Halloween where he gives out candy. And you stay out of it for the most part and let him rock because you don't fuck with him. He doesn't fuck with you. But this year, you see him at the candy store a couple hours before trick or treating. And you start to actually see what he's doing to facilitate this special tradition. And oh, it turns out he's going one by one to all the king size candy bars. And he's grabbing every single king size box, every single one. Not just the Reese's, not just the Three Musketeers. He's doing the gaudiest, lengthiest version of a way to give out king size candy bars. He's going one by one and grabbing them all. And you're like, you know what? Fuck this guy. I don't like this guy. Now I know what his plan is. I could disrupt this a little bit. I'm not going to stop him from doing his special thing, but maybe I could just take this box of Kit Kats before he gets to it. And maybe deep down that'll piss him off. And I want to piss off my guy that I hate that's my next door neighbor. So I'm going to grab the Kit Kats. And he looks up, your neighbor looks up and sees you grabbing the Kit Kats. And he says from down the aisle, don't grab those Kit Kats. Those are my Kit Kats. And you hear him, but you play dumb because you don't like this guy and you want to take his Kit Kats. So you take the Kit Kats. He then comes down the aisle and shoves you and takes the Kit Kats and comes back home. Then when you get home, Cart, after this exchange, you're pissed. You drive home. You're like, fuck this. I hate this guy. You get home and the first thing that your wife says to you is, that was so classless of you to take his Kit Kats. And then the kids come trick or treating. And when you're giving out candy to the kids that night, all the kids just say, didn't you know that he gives out the Kit Kats?
Mm-hmm.
And you just have an all around awful day. And nothing you can say or do, nothing at that point makes you look like the good guy. Because everyone loves your neighbor. He's the guy who wins Halloween every single year. He's the star of the show. You fucked up. You did something petty. It didn't prevent him from doing what he's doing. It just pissed him off. And in the end, he looks cool for doing it and you look like shit. That's my metaphor.
It's a hell of a metaphor. Couple things there. The minute that he says something to me when I'm grabbing the Kit Kats, I'm not acting like I didn't hear him. I'm being like, "Shut up, pussy! I'm taking these Kit Kats." That's happening for sure. And then the kids come to my porch and they're like, "That's his thing." I'm like, "Well, go to his bitch ass house and go grab his Kit Kats." Like, fuck you, Timmy. You kidding me? Classless says I'd burn his house down.
Okay. So in the end, we're about where we started. You think Michigan should have responded a little bit different, but
I also thought I should have locked in more to that metaphor because honestly, I got lost in the start when this guy's just saying you're a bitch, F you, have an awful day, and well, I'm just getting in the whip. That's happening.
the point is you've got a guy that just maybe he even is more successful as a better job. He hates
I'm close to my name. I know his lock code.
you. Okay. All right. All right.
He parks his car in front of his house.
All right. I understand. I hear what you're saying. I understand.
It was a good metaphor though.
But my large point with it is this. Even if I disagree with everything that Dusty has done and how he has handled this until going on PMT, I understand what he thinks is so ridiculous about this. He got by his rival, and like after a game where his players got shoved for doing something that's technically by the book, all the questions to him are like, why were you so classless? Like you didn't know Michigan State's tradition here?
Last thing on this, because I obviously, I think you and I see the same things on Twitter. How do you feel about the generational breakdowns of where Michigan players typically stand during free throws?
I mean, we're going way too into the rabbit hole on this, the
Yeah.
weeds. Look, the Mateen picture very clearly demonstrates that this has gone off without issue with players standing on the logo. And I still stand by this. Fiddler kissed the logo. There wasn't an issue. If Holloman does not decide to do this, again, I had no issue with Holloman doing it. But if Holloman wasn't a psychopath and decided not to do this, this wouldn't even be a story to me.
Mm.
It would probably be something we spend 30 seconds on after the game of like, was Michigan intentionally standing there? And Michigan looks like assholes, but the photographers of the game kind of just crop them out and we don't even talk about it. It
Mm.
became a story because Trey Holloman is a competitive, insane person who was like, I'm going to shove this guy. And somehow, some way, the whole world accepted that that was the right behavior. And Dusty May was in the wrong along the way when this has happened historically at times and there hasn't been an issue. But Trey Holloman is one of one, man. As we've said all year, he is wired a different way than anybody else. Go buy the Trey Holloman shirts commemorating this very special achievement from him.
Yeah. I don't even, the shirts aren't that great. Look forward to Phat Phat scoring his first career point against Michigan State.
That'll never happen.
It won't.
Oh God, no.
Dusty tells me he's gonna have his moment.
This was his moment.
Oh, this was it?
This was the moment. Yeah.
Okay, congrats.